In this video, we will discuss display systems used in medical imaging. It is important to have an understanding of display monitors now that medical imaging is digital and all files are electronic. Monitors are typically the limiting factor for image resolution and dynamic range of the display. There are a number of display monitors on the market. The cathode ray tube, or CRT, is an older generation monitor that was a staple in the imaging department years ago. A liquid crystal diode, or LCD monitor, is a commonly used display monitor in medical imaging. There are also plasma panels and thin film electroluminescent displays. Both are similar appearing to the LCD monitor, but not often used to display medical images. And lastly, there are light-emitting diodes, or LEDs. These monitors are made up of a matrix of small light bulbs. LEDs are becoming more prevalent in medical imaging. Historically, CRTs and LCDs were the most common monitors utilized in medical imaging, and so we will spend some time comparing the two by discussing the main advantages and disadvantages of each. Cathode ray tubes, or CRTs, are not used anymore, but they have a significant place in the history of medical imaging. These bulky monitors had plenty of disadvantages, but also have some advantages that can't be matched. For example, a CRT can be viewed at a wider angle. Because of the curved viewing surface, when standing off-centered from the display, one could still see the image. This means that multiple people could view the same image on the same screen simultaneously. A perfect black is also able to be seen on a CRT. The contrast ratio is better, and they have a short warm-up time. There is no image retention, also called ghosting, and the image is continuous, meaning a smoother transition without delay. All of that sounds great until you understand some of the disadvantages. Besides being bulky and heavy, the CRT lacks geometric preciseness, which is essential for accurate displaying of anatomy. The sharpness and brightness can vary or be uneven as well. Another issue with CRTs is veiling glare, which is mostly light scatter from the output screen and causes a decrease in contrast as seen in this photographic image. Another disadvantage is that CRTs generally do not last as long because of deterioration of the brightness of the image display. So let's compare that information with the more commonly used display monitor in medical imaging. Liquid crystal diodes, or LCDs, are inexpensive. They do not take up much room, and they do not create much heat. They last longer than CRTs and have perfect geometry, uniform sharpness, and brightness. There is no veiling glare and have low surface reflection. However, there are some disadvantages that you might not be aware of, but you should be. The contrast ratio is less than that of a CRT. An LCD cannot display a true black. The viewing angle is more narrow, meaning that you need to be directly in front of the monitor for best viewing. Another annoying issue is that the brightness of the screen is dependent on temperature, meaning the monitor must be warmed up for the best viewing conditions. Most of these would never cross our minds if we were just viewing our favorite movie, but when viewing medical images, the displayed image quality needs to be precise. Ghosting and response times are also issues with LCDs. In this image, you may be able to see a faint display of an upside-down pelvis as an example of a ghosting artifact. Here is an iliac wing that should not be on this chest radiograph. On the right, we see a monitor with a ghosting issue involving a mouse arrow. So how does an LCD work? The most basic explanation is that an LCD works off of the principle of polarization of light. An LCD is made up of a layer of pneumatic liquid crystal sandwiched between two polarized sheets of glass. LCDs are backlit, and the pixels are switched on or off electronically using the liquid crystals to rotate the light either parallel or perpendicular to the polarized lens. In order for the light to pass through the polarized lens, the light has to be parallel to the lens because perpendicular light will be blocked by the polarized lens. Parallel light will show as bright, and perpendicular shows as dark on the screen. Variations in the values of bright to dark are accomplished through varying the voltage supplied to the liquid crystal layer, which results in varying degrees of angles of light that are permitted to pass through. Through this process, varying shades of gray can be displayed on the monitor. Active matrix liquid crystal display, or AMLCDs, are a more sophisticated type of LCD that allows each display pixel to have its own TFT, or thin film transistor. This increases the response time, or the time needed for the pixel to change its brightness, as well as the refresh time, which is the time to change to the next frame or image. One thing to know is that LCD monitors can be damaged if touched too hard, since only a flexible cover is between your finger and the liquid crystals. You may notice a change in appearance when the screen is pressed. Make sure to avoid applying pressure to these monitors. Pixels, which is short for picture elements, are arranged in columns and rows on the display monitor and make up the image. Monitor resolution is measured in pixels. The more pixels a monitor has, the smaller the detail that can be displayed on that monitor. Monitors that are used to interpret medical imaging have more pixels than a typical desk monitor. To compare, a typical desk monitor has less than 1 megapixels or 1 million pixels. But a monitor used to view diagnostic radiographs is required to have 3 million pixels and is referred to as a 3 megapixel monitor. Mammography is required by the FDA to have a 5 megapixel monitor to view the fine details of the images. As you can imagine, the cost increases with the number of pixels. Monitors for mammography can reach $50,000 each. Not only are there requirements for the number of megapixels, but the resolution must be a minimum of 2.5 line pairs per millimeter. Radiologist workstations are costly and must meet the minimum specs that I just reviewed. Most RAD workstations have dual multi-megapixel monitors for viewing electronic images, as well as 1 or 2 desktop monitors for viewing the work list and the dictation software. A technologist typically only views images on a desktop monitor or 2 to QC their images before sending to PACS. Because of the dependence on the quality of the displayed images, medical imaging departments must test monitors for accuracy and standardization of display. This is accomplished through a number of tests, including a well-known SMPTE pattern. The Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers created a picture tool that is displayed on monitors and evaluated for optimal contrast and resolution. Other patterns and tests exist, but the SMPTE pattern is a common one that you may encounter, and it tests the luminance response of the monitor. Another common tool that you should be aware of is the AAPM TG18, which was developed by the American Association of Physicists in Medicine. They put together a task force that developed a standard to ensure quality image display for medical imaging applications through various test patterns. Most PACS vendors offer software options to incorporate this standard of testing into their product. These patterns test geometric distortion, reflection, luminance response, field uniformity, display resolution, and display noise. Many monitor vendors are following suit, and test tools are being built into the monitors, and testing is conducted automatically, which results in a report that is generated. It is critical for every monitor of a diagnostic workstation to be set at the same luminance and contrast. Many times monitors come with tools to physically measure the luminance of the display monitors to ensure consistency across workstations. This testing should be done regularly to ensure brightness and uniformity of the monitor. These simple-to-use tools can be utilized by a trained technologist, physicist, or PACS administrator. There are many tests that the radiologist can perform just by viewing the monitor and looking for issues. LCD monitors can have dead pixels. One dead pixel will look like a white dot when the screen is black. A diagnostic monitor that has more than 15 dead pixels across the entire monitor must be replaced. Digital display of images requires standardization and accuracy. As stated earlier, the weakest link in viewing medical images can be the display monitor. Know the advantages and disadvantages of monitors used in medical imaging. Know the standards for viewing different types of images on the correct monitor. And be familiar with tools to properly maintain and test the quality controls of monitors.